Good afternoon to my entire Jeunesse Australasia family and welcome to session 2 of our 4-part AM/PM Masterclass. I hope you all enjoyed last week's session where we took an in-depth look into AM/PM and how it works in the body. And today we will be taking an in-depth look into PM. Joining me today is none other than Nobel Prize nominee, author and Scientific Advisory Board member, Dr. Giampapa. Thank you for joining us again this week, Dr. G.
Rachel, my pleasure, and I'm very happy to say hello to everybody in Australasia. And today we're going to do the second session about the science and the effects of PM, part of the AM/PM system. So as you all know, one of the key things that makes Jeunesse unique, as we mentioned in our previous session, is the Youth Enhancement System, the YES system. And what's most important about this is how this system has been designed. So for the products in the YES system, number one, are experiential. That means when you take them, you do see or feel a difference. Number two, the products work from the inside out and the outside in. That means from the most intimate level of the cell inside our bodies to the largest organ in our body, the skin. And frankly, they work from the outside in as well. Lastly, and one of the most important concepts built into the YES system is the concepts of synergy. And that really simply means when you take more than one of the YES family products, the impact of those two products or three products together, the experiential impact is even greater than taking them on their own. So this is one of the reasons why Jeunesse has experienced such tremendous success. You know, one of the things we talked about also was the focus of AM/PM in my initial research was to come up with a product that is an evolutionary step beyond vitamins and minerals. And as I mentioned previously, the concept of vitamins and minerals has been around since the late 30s, where scientists at Cornell University discovered that the body needs, each one of the cells in our body needs specific vital amines, and that's how we got the word vitamins. Now, if you don't get your basic vitamins, okay, the cell can't work at a normal level. But today we're looking at how do we enhance the function of our cells, not just to work normal, but to be able to fend off the harsh environment of the 21st century, the poor food we eat, the lack of an ideal lifestyle that is less exercise and more stress. So we need to be able to function at a more than normal level today just to maintain our health. So with AM/PM, one of the focuses for my initial research was to create a product that worked not just to keep us working at our normal cell level, but to impact both our body cells and this new concept and new discovery of stem cells within the human body. And as you know, the body cells that you have, your hand, your skin, your face, your bones, are the daily functioning cells. But the true value, the true importance is keeping our stem cells functioning optimally as well, because if those stem cells are not adequate in number and function, they cannot replace the damaged cells in our body. We age quicker and we experience a poor quality of health. So the other new concept that has been introduced, and I've been focusing on this, is the concept of DNA. You know, in the past, we learned about DNA in the 50s, but what we didn't really understand is that DNA is really much more than just a molecule that codes for proteins. DNA is actually like a computer program, but far, far more advanced than any software we've ever created. And so we refer to DNA today as our genetic software that's located in each one of our 100 trillion cells. And frankly, even Bill Gates is now touting this concept. So with that in mind, we're going to refer back to our DNA or our genetic software throughout this. You know, just like a computer crashes when the software gets a virus, and that happens to be quite appropriate for today's environment. So when your computer gets a virus, your software in your cell gets a virus, it crashes and it doesn't work. So I want you to think of each one of the 100 trillion cells in your body literally like a microprocessor or a micro cell phone, and a micro cell phone is a good analogy. And so what happens is the difference in our cells, in each one of those cells, is we suffer poor health and rapid aging as that DNA damage or our genetic software gets exposed to more damage. The more damage it occurs, the poorer our health and the quicker we age. Now, inside each one of our cells, we really have the analogy of two genetic software programs. The first one is the program that helps make enhance how our cells work. That is the function of our cells to bring them up beyond just a normal functioning level. And the second one is the day-night program, because human beings evolved having to basically respond to a very harsh environment hundreds of thousands of years ago. And in the morning, we had to be alert and focused in order not to basically be eaten alive by the animals that roam the earth, and also to be able to obtain the food we needed to stay alive. Now, in the evening, our bodies were designed for repair of the damage that they suffered, cellular repair, and to induce deep sleep, which balances so many of the things we're going to talk about as we go along today. So chronobiology is the formal term for what's been designed into AM/PM. And you'll notice when you unroll that long label in the back of each one of those bottles, you'll see over 70 different ingredients in different categories. And the PM formula has specific ingredients that really help do the following things. They help with inducing sleep and enhancing the quality and duration of sleep. They help with detoxification, and they help with DNA repair. Now, in the AM formula, things are different. They focus on that, and they actually are designed to help with mental focus and energy. So this concept of helping to restore our biological software program, that second sub-program, is called chronobiology, or the ability to balance the AM and PM functionings of the genes inside our cells. And you thought this was just going to be about vitamins. Well, I'm going to shock you, because as we get deeper into this, you're going to understand the real science that makes AM/PM unique. So, basically what we all have been taught in medical school, and that's accepted, and is certainly an accepted concept, is we have what's called an autonomic nervous system. That simply means our bodies run automatically. Okay, and automatically we wake up in the morning and usually are more focused, and automatically we get tired at night and we fall asleep. So the wake up in the morning is called the sympathetic system, and the falling asleep at night is based on the parasympathetic system. Now, that's all fancy nomenclature basically, but what it really means is that, and how it illustrates itself, is that as we age, due to the damage in our genetic software programs, that gets reversed. So we see people come into my office with a bag of vitamins and say, Dr. G, I take all this, but I'm still tired in the morning, and I take all this other bag and I can't fall asleep at night. And the answer to that dilemma is very simple. They're taking the wrong supplements in the morning and the wrong supplements at night, which keeps them unbalanced, those two systems unbalanced. So the other thing inside AM/PM is the ingredients have been chosen to balance this evolutionary system of awake and focused, and sleep and repair. So one of the first things we did a number of years ago, we canvassed over 300 people. And when it came to the effects of PM, we saw something very interesting. So if we take a look at sleep at 4 weeks, the 68% of those people were sleeping longer and better, okay? And at 12 weeks, 88% of those people were sleeping longer and better. Now, frankly, those statistics are better than many of the prescription medications that are out on the market today, and we use only natural compounds. So if we look at the typical sleep cycle, the typical sleep cycle that human beings go through every night is very interesting. So the first stage of sleep is called lightly awake, okay? And that's when we're just about ready to doze off. And then we go into what's called REM, rapid eye motion. Now, why is this important? It's because during REM sleep is how we process the new information that we've occurred throughout the day. So there's a temporary storage area in the brain that processes new information that you learned during the day. And this is really important because if we don't get enough REM sleep each night, we really can't process and remember. Our short-term memory becomes affected. We then go into light sleep and then deep sleep. And you'll notice that there's more deep sleep at the early part of the evening than there is light sleep or REM sleep. And why is that important? Is because during deep sleep, the information we process from the day before or a few days before gets moved to the frontal area of the brain for long-term storage. So this is about memory, it's about functioning, and we're going to talk about how today's 21st century overstimulates our brain, and the amount of information we have to process is unbelievably more than ever before in human history. But then as the night goes on, we have more deep sleep in the first portion of the night. And then as we start to get into the middle of the night, we start to see more REM. And right before we wake up is when we start to have more dreams and more rapid eye motion, which again helps us process the information, the more recent information, into its temporary storage site. So you're going to see if you're not getting sleep, and before I go into that, let me make another comment. In deep sleep is when we start to release key hormones. Those hormones like growth hormone, okay, which is essential for cellular repair, immune stimulation, body composition. The hormones like DHEA, which again is an immune stimulant and basically helps form multiple other hormone complexes. In deep sleep, we also move into a situation where our cortisol levels get adjusted, which is one of the key aging hormones. So each one of these levels of sleep has a specific function that we really need to keep balanced and regular. So the average time spent in sleep stages, okay, our awake sleep, like when we just lie down, is about 2 to 5%. Light sleep is about 45 to 55%. Okay, deep sleep is about 23%, and this is where we're processing long-term memories and storing them. And REM sleep is about 25%. So you start to see that each one of these cycles has a specific focus and function. So what are the real timekeepers when it comes to sleep is, the things that keep our biological software, genetic software regulated, both the AM, PM, is the amount of light we're exposed to during the day. And particularly computer blue light has a negative effect. And what we don't want at night is we don't want to go to bed and have a lot of bright lights and a lot of stimulating noise. Okay, and we also want to do, in order to get a good night's sleep along with PM, we want to keep our body temperature, excuse me, on the cooler side. We don't want to eat big meals, and we don't want to exercise within an hour, hour and a half before we're going to go to sleep. There are multiple other biological clocks, and one of the key sleep managers is an essential area of the brain that helps release key hormones called the suprachiasmatic nuclei, But most important is your cerebrum, your brain cortex. Because if we don't have a period of decreasing the stimulation for even an hour or two before we go to bed, we'll find that our mind will continue to race when we go to sleep. It will think about what we didn't do today, what we did yesterday, what we have to do, but the brain hasn't been able to stay in what we call the moment, that is, just experience its environment. And that's what keeps most people from sleeping. So when we look at the typical night's sleep, we see that this is so important. So one of the things I wanted to mention too is the average person, the average human being, needs at least 7 hours of sleep. And this is a full adult. Now, teenagers need more sleep. Babies need the most amount of sleep because sleep also helps, as I mentioned, with cell repair, cell turnover. So if you have friends, and you may have friends saying, look, I can I'm perfectly fine on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Well, that's a misnomer and a myth. And frankly, there are a very small group of people that can function at approximately 5 or 6 hours of sleep, and that's because they have a specific gene. That gene is a gene called the RB1 gene, which is present in maybe 1 out of 4 million people. So I wouldn't bet that you're the ones. So again, talking about the sleep, let's talk about the following thing. Let's talk about this. Sleep affects multiple things, and we're going to go multiple areas of health and memory, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Today the human brain is loaded daily with 34 gigabytes of information on the average a day. And this deluge of information by the media and other information sources, your cell phone, has led to an overbombing up of the average human brain with such a large volume of information. That information can overload even a powerful computer, according to the new US scientific research. And one study in San Diego, California, which was published in the Times in London, and another one of the papers, actually showed that people are every day inundated with the equivalent amount of 34 gigabytes of information. Now keep in mind, that's enough new information to overload a laptop within a week, and we get bombarded with that a day. Here's another interesting point. Back in 2008, a Microsoft Corporation study showed people could spend 12 seconds on a concentrated task without becoming distracted. Now, 12 seconds is not a long time before you lose attention, right? So just 5 years later, 2013, it was found that people could only function or focus for 8 seconds. This is due to the overload that continues to occur on a yearly basis. Now, what's interesting is 8 seconds is only 1 second less. It was only 1 second less than a goldfish could focus. So you're understanding what's happened to the human brain. It's becoming overloaded, and that's what keeps us awake. That's what causes stress. That's what upsets our genetic software. And so AM/PM has been designed to really help make that and restore that system back to normal. We were talking about why is sleep so important. Okay, so I think I already showed you that if we don't get enough sleep, our memory and our memory processing is dramatically affected. We have higher levels of anxiety. We have an increased risk of stroke, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and we also have a tremendous more potential for depression. And along with depression and weight gain, what you're really seeing is the impact of the lack of sleep on our hormonal systems. So when you don't have a lot of sleep, your cortisol gets elevated throughout the day. What does that do? That causes virtually every cell in your body to age quicker. It also causes you to gain body fat because the carbohydrates are stored in fat cells when you have high cortisol levels. You even have an increased risk of breast cancer if you don't get enough sleep or you're exposed to too much light late at night. So this becomes important information to help maintain our ideal state of health, along with taking the right supplements. So as we spoke before, AM/PM was shown to do multiple things as far as energy, stress levels, and other issues. But most importantly, when we look at sleep, in 4 weeks, AM/PM helped 68% of people improve both quality and duration of sleep. But at 12 weeks, it went up to 88%. So this is one of the most important things that I think we could say about AM/PM at the moment, because without great sleep and on a regular basis, you saw what happens. So AM/PM, when we talk about when should you take this, how many tablets should I take? So we recommend you take PM approximately an hour after your dinner, or maybe about an hour and a half before you go to sleep, either way. PM has amylase, protease, lipases, digestive enzymes that help with you obtaining more nutritional value out of the food you eat. So, as you age, your GI tract does not secrete those key enzymes to digest macronutrients and to absorb micronutrients. So PM helps with that as well because of its category of ingredients. So when people ask me, Dr. G, how many should I take? I only weigh 100 pounds. Well, if you're around 100 or 90 pounds, you probably do fine with one. You have to see it. Everybody's different. But if you're weighing 250 pounds, you're a weightlifter or just a real tall person, without a question, you're going to need two, and you might need three. But one of the most important things I've mentioned to many people, many of our Genes distributors, is experiment with how many tablets you're taking until you find the right dose for you as an individual. Gives you the optimum amount of sleep. And it's not just falling asleep, but how do you feel in the morning? And if you're groggy, really, really groggy, maybe you want to cut back a little bit, even though you're getting better sleep. But so experiment with this. There's no rule that says it has to be 1 or 2 tablets, but most people will be 2 tablets of PM, 2 tablets of AM to balance that autonomic nervous system and that genetic software program. One of the other things I highly recommend for people, particularly today in this, I would say, very negative environment with infections from multiple sources, is to take extra protein. So I usually have a drink of a nice tall glass of Zen protein at night. Why? Well, because we need to keep our protein levels up so we improve our body composition. That is, we have more muscle mass and less fat. And by doing that, we decrease inflammation in our body, which both viruses and bacteria love. But more importantly, when we take extra protein, perhaps after dinner or with dinner, what happens is the protein is absorbed in our small intestine. And without protein, our body can't make those immunoglobulins that are so important for immune function. So the protein helps us produce even more immunoglobulins as well, and helps restore our to restore our immune function. So when you're talking to your distributors, you're talking to your friends, one of the most important things is to say and emphasize the Genesis products are unique. Okay, and what AMPM in particular is a foundation product, is the foundation product. And basically that means that when you take AMPM, you help every one of those 100 trillion cells work not just normal, but above normal. You help those cells actually load up with key nutrients that allows them to work at a more efficient level, especially when they're stressed by an infection or just stress itself. And the science behind AMPM is unique, okay? We're going to talk about that in just a second now too. So you're looking at these ingredients, some of the key ingredients that are in the PM formula that are not in the AM formula. Now these ingredients have been chosen because they have specific functions inside that genetic software that can actually turn on the genes that we know help restore sleep and help balance and restore cellular repair. But more importantly, they can turn down specific genes that are more prominent as we grow older, so those are less likely to create a problem. And that whole concept of choosing specific ingredients that can alter gene expression or gene activity up or down is called epigenetics. And this is really the first product that I even know of that has been designed with that in mind. So let's look at some of the ingredients. So some of the key ingredients are, these special fatty acids, evening primrose oil. These things help reduce inflammation, which helps sleep. Valerian root, turmeric root extract, fenugreek seed, quercetin dehydrate, cayenne pepper, vanadium. These things help balance blood sugar so it's stable, so that during the night you don't wake up in the middle of the night and start looking for a piece of cake or something that's super sweet. And that happens to a lot of people who don't balance their blood sugar. So these herbals help induce sleep, the first stage of sleep, and help decrease inflammation. Now another group of ingredients have to do with amino acids: glutamine, arginine, ornithine. These groupings of amino acids actually help secrete more of growth hormone that decreases as we age. And HGH, growth hormone, helps put us into deep sleep, which, as you saw, is very important. Now, other ingredients like acetylcysteine and osteohexaphosphate, melatonin, along with the key bacteria for the small intestine, are integral in sleeping. Now, melatonin, most people think, is what helps you sleep. And frankly, melatonin may help you fall asleep, but it doesn't help you stay asleep. And also, melatonin helps regulate so much of our hormonal systems. And more importantly, melatonin is one of the most powerful compounds that help protect our DNA from damage. So these are all concepts that people have been telling you. Melatonin is the thing that makes me go to sleep. It helps, but what it doesn't do what the other ingredients that PM include do. So hormonal regulation, sleep induction, and regulating the sleep cycle are all of these things that have been included in the PM formula. Minerals, okay. Minerals help to regulate sleep and aid in DNA repair. And as you can see, zinc particularly helps with regulating DNA repair. But it also is a very potent ingredient that helps limit viral replication. Selenium, copper, manganese, chromium helps regulate blood sugar. Molybdenum is needed in the bones. And magnesium is a very tranquilizing and a relaxing compound to help induce sleep. So people ask me, Dr. G, this all sounds great. This sounds like a super story. Do you have any proof that this actually is doing what you said and you designed this product to do? So a little over a year ago, maybe a year and a half now, we did a study at the University of Taiwan with feeding specific cells, okay, that are used to study pharmaceutical medications and other things by big pharmaceutical companies to see if PM could actually change the genes involved in, number one, longevity and health, which are the SIRT1 genes, SIRT1 genes. And then we also wanted to see, does PM formula really help with stem cells? And the two major groups that we want to see activated in our body cells are NANOG and ECAT. And to our unbelievable surprise, it's exactly what we saw. Here you see in each one of these little square, smudgy black boxes, the activity of those genes getting more and more and more active over time. And this wasn't a very long, this was only maybe a 1 week study, okay? And I only have the first 3 days here, but at the end of the week, there was such an amazing improvement in the activity of these genes. And this was really the first time we started to see proof that natural ingredients actually can turn up key genes that are involved in health, longevity, and stem cell function and multiplication. So there are new studies planned for this coming year to go even deeper and actually look at human beings to see what's going on here. But I think Jeunesse has really taken a step forward with starting to really look at the science behind cellular aging. So lastly, as we get to the end of this, you have to understand one thing, but your genes plus your lifestyle is really what is responsible for creating enhanced health and longevity and function and youthful function. We only inherit about 30% of genetics, but 70% of the genes we've inherited are really up to us to decide how active and how positive those are. And that includes lifestyle, stress levels, diet, exercise, and most importantly, the things you consume, your food and your supplements. So you are really the one in charge of your future health. Now, if we're looking at today, just to stay in shape, we're all stuck in our houses, we're trying to do some exercise. One of the things we don't want to do is gain extra body fat because that lowers our general immune function and increases our inflammation. Two things we do not want to do while we're held up and our activity isn't as easily accomplished. So one of the things I recommend, and Mark McDonald has championed tremendously, together we've been working and showing that when you use AM/PM and Zen Protein and Zen Prime, you not only get a more quicker response in improving your body composition, but you end up with more energy. You end up with a potentially enhanced ability to fight infections And what you end up with is looking better and feeling better when these products are used together. And it's not surprising because the synergy concept in the Yes system is exactly what we're looking to do. So in summary, and to finalize and tie this all up, if we are looking at our DNA as genetic software, and that's really what we're doing today with our research. And many people have asked me, well, Dr. G, that's a kind of a cool story. I understand that, I don't want to have my computer crash from a virus. I don't want my cells to crash from DNA damage. But who's really the programmer if you're saying our DNA is like genetic software? Well, my answer to that is simple. You are, because your lifestyle, your thoughts, your stress, and all of the things in general in your life dictate which one of those genes are turned on and turned off out of those 30,000 genes packed into each cell. But let me make one more comment. One of the key aspects of determining how healthy you are, how long you live, is information. Now you would say, well, what does that have to do with turning your genes on and off? Information. Well, at Jeunesse, our focus is to make sure you're up to date on all the latest information. And why is that? Well, information changes how you think, your thoughts. Your thoughts change your activity, okay? Your activity changes your habits, and your habits then change your genes. So it all starts with information, and information is exactly what Jeunesse is about, surrounding yourself with like-minded people who are looking to be successful, healthy. So information is really the beginning of reprogramming all of those 100 trillion cells and 30,000 genes that are packed into each one of those cells. And here at Jeunesse, our goal is to not only give you the best products, but to support those products with the best scientific support and information. And we like to end all of these talks with one comment, and that is really, don't leave your future health up to chance. The best way to predict your future health is to create it. And that's what we're here for, to help you with at Jeunesse. Thank you tonight, and I hope you enjoyed this little bit of extra information on why PM is so, so important for your daily use.
Thank you, Dr. G. And I love that with Jeunesse, we have the power to predict our future. Now, a couple of months ago, I was having a chat with Dr. G, and he mentioned to me, and you've mentioned in both of our calls now, that, if you're starting to feel a little bit, down by lunchtime or afternoon, add that extra AM in. I know today's about PM, but I didn't want to forget to raise this. So what I've been doing now for the last probably 6 or 7 weeks is I've been having AM in the morning, and I've also been having one around 1 o'clock. And I can tell you that my afternoons are completely different. The focus and the energy that I have had has just been amazing. I used to rush around in the afternoon, try and finish work, and then take children to sports and, go to the gym and do everything. And then I just kind of flop on the couch. But the energy that has come by just making that one small, simple change is amazing. So
I'm really glad you mentioned that, Rachel, because again, you have to understand that AM, PM, this product can be personalized. Everybody should experiment. And for instance, I have people who take a PM like in late afternoon because they can't sleep at night. And they found that taking a PM maybe around 4 o'clock helps them wind down so they can fall asleep more easily. So I suggest with people, frankly, I take 2 AMs in the morning. I take 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And I've been a great sleeper. Surgeons learn to sleep on their feet. So I stick with the 2 PMs in the evening. But I have people, we have distributors in Germany take 4 at night. And we have people who take 2 AMs in the morning, 2 AMs at lunchtime. And then we have people in the East, in Japan, in Hong Kong, Macau, who take just 1 because they're tiny people. Yeah. So the secret here is explore. This is a product that you can personalize based on how you feel.
I love that. I love that we can personalize our health and make these products adapt to fit us. Again, a wealth of knowledge, Dr. G. I love spending time with you. Thank you for being with us today, and stay tuned, guys, to learn about how AMPM can work with your immune system next week. Thank you.
My pleasure. Everybody stay safe and healthy. And at Jeunesse, we're here to help in every way we can. But information changes your thoughts change your habits change your genes. Good night.